Hello, friends. Welcome to the Mermaid Portal experience. I'm Carly, and this is Owning Authenticity. This video is a timeless collection of channeled messages. So whenever you are watching this video, you are free to resonate and claim as much as what we're going to talk about as you want. Anything that doesn't resonate, just leave it here for somebody else. That's all. And this Mermaid Portal experience, channeled messages, this is something that I have personally found my way to the Mermaid Portal. And as I understand it and as we talk about it, it is a place between worlds. It truly is a place where you leave behind your old world and you move through a space of nothingness and you pop out in a new world. The Mermaid Portal. It's surrendering your old life and completely letting go of whatever it is that isn't working for you. You know, I think there's can be, not always, a lot of resistance around change. And really, truly, the only thing that ever changes is what's not working for you, what's not in alignment with your highest self, your source energy self, your God self. So when you are finding this message, feel free to feel your way into the topics that are going to come up and come through, and feel into what in your life is smelling like that. What in your life is something that you are truly ready to see more clearly. You know, like, I love the saying that the first step to change is awareness. And that is really the only function of this space. I say only. You can't change if you don't have awareness. So coming into these videos, the Mermaid Portal experience, there are deep contemplations waiting here to spark your awareness. And what that means is that you don't have to agree with anything that I say for it to be helpful to you. If you exactly disagree with what I'm saying, that's very clarifying. That's very helpful. So I offer these messages, whatever wants to come through in each of these channeled sessions, as a timeless package of confirmations for anyone who is willing to swim down here and get them. So welcome to the Mermaid Portal. And really, like I said, this is a timeless message, and I am personally feeling myself in that in-between space, in the Bardo, in the liminal space, the cocoon, the place where you are no longer the caterpillar and you are not yet the butterfly. That place where you are moving through a transitory phase of nothingness. And this is where I feel myself to be. I think if anything, I am in more of a phase currently, and so that I share this because that is giving you a vibe of like where this message will be coming from, is I feel more like a caterpillar who is like building its cocoon. Like, I am waving goodbye to my old life, and in doing so, I am surrendering to what I can feel. As far as like, I know there's another part of this process. There's like a whole nother life that is the butterfly's life. Like the caterpillar doesn't really know what it's going to turn into. It just knows that like it's time to build the cocoon, and that's very much where I'm sitting personally, is like it's time to go into the portal. It's time to transform. It's time to let go of what is no longer working for me. And so it's very interesting because at the time I'm recording this, it's been like 2 weeks since I recorded for Owning Authenticity. And that's been really interesting because recording for Owning Authenticity is one of my favorite things to get to do. It's part of my self-care. It helps me feel better. And that actually congealed into one of the first messages that really wants to come through in this time for all of us, for myself and you watching it in your time, is one of the dominant feelings of the mermaid portal is disorientation. Disorientation. You could also call that confusion. You could just call it a lack of clarity. Like there's nothing wrong. Like nothing has gone wrong. You're not doing anything wrong. It's just how it is. When you let go of the old and allow for the nothingness, step number one is to disorient. Like that is on purpose. You have to get disoriented from the old version so that now you're available to reorient to the new version. And again, that's where I think it's very helpful to understand that that's the order it's going to happen, and you're going to have to go through the lack of knowing, like you're just in the darkness, like I don't know what's on the other side, but I know that what I just left behind isn't it. I know that that's not it. And I am willing to move forward having no clue what's coming, just on the basis of I know that that's not it. And so it really does like call for celebration as far as anyone in the mermaid portal, like anyone in that liminal space of leaving something behind without really knowing where you're headed next. Like I just have to commend the courage that that is and the self-love that that is, as far as taking a risk on your own behalf, not being willing to settle for something that you know isn't right just because you're scared that you don't know what's coming next. So anytime you've ever done that, like give yourself a giant pat on the back, because it is this space that keeps a lot of people out of change. They're not willing to come in here. They're not willing to enter the mermaid portal. I gave it a fun name because I want people to learn to love it like I do, as far as if you will swim in there, if you will let go of what doesn't work. You're only letting go of what doesn't work. If it serves you, take it with you. Like all we know is that not everything is probably going to go with you. Like if it doesn't belong in your new life, it can't come with you. It has to be left behind. And the only reason it wouldn't belong in your new life is because it's not in alignment with your authentic self. So the thought of what even is it that we're leaving behind is worth giving some thought to, as far as like, what is the old world? It's inauthenticity. What is the new world? It's authenticity. It's realness. It's getting in alignment with who you really are, who you really truly came here to be. And I had this awareness the other day where, dude, like, I love the analogy of the caterpillar, the cocoon, and the butterfly. Like I use it all the time. It's so perfect as far as like really painting that picture of transformation and the period of darkness that exists in the middle. And it's imperfect, like all analogies, but only because I think we come out of the cocoon every day. We transform and we become a little bit more of our authentic self every day. And so basically like putting it out there that it's possible to kind of treat the mermaid portal, this space between worlds, like a regular appointment, as far as like this isn't a once in a lifetime ordeal of moving between worlds. It's not a every 25 years, like midlife crisis, like in my early 40s, I move over. Like, no, like, I mean, you could literally swim that portal and reveal more of yourself every single day if you want to. If you don't want to get in the water, which is to say, turn inward and move into yourself, and trust me, I could talk for days about why that's hard to do, depending on how much pain you have stored in there, how much old fear you have stored in there. I've made drawings before of like, there was a time when my physical body was so stacked full of pain that even to close my eyes in the first instant of trying to meditate, I would instantly be shown these horrific images that I felt like my inner world is like chasing me away, where like I can't even go in there without them like showing me something horrific. And right, my inner child is terrified. And every time my inner child shows me like, look how scared I am, I just ran away. I just kept not showing up for myself in those ways. And, it, of course, is easy to get off into a wishing it was different, like wishing that it hadn't been like that, wishing that you could have figured it out sooner. And I'm going to say with peace and love, that is a gigantic waste of our energy. And I am personally pulling myself back into a place of like, it was what it was because that's what it needed to be. And I needed to sit in those spaces so that I could relay right here, right now, the difficulty of what I'm suggesting you do, and the lived experience that I have of the uphill battle it could be potentially, depending on who you are, what you've been through, where you're coming from. If you've got any trauma stored in your body, then it's probably going to be hard. And when I say that, I believe, like I basically believe, I guess it's not a wholehearted belief, but like I pretty much believe that's all of us. We've all been through trauma, either in this life or the last life or whatever. And we've all got sensitive parts in us that are not necessarily ready to see the light of day. So when I say, get in the mermaid portal, swim into yourself, look into yourself every day, that's asking a lot. If that is going to bring you together with wounds that, possibly are still so sensitive that even to lay eyes on them sends you running out of your meditation. And if that's anything close to where you are, just know that like, haven't we all been there? Like, I think wishing for it to be different is kind of a waste of energy, but like, I wish it was different. Sure. I really do. I wish that it didn't have to be like that. And all I can say is, as you move through this, as we all move through this, as we all get deeper into ourselves and allow our truest, authentic, soul-centered self to be where we live from, to be intranauts and be diving into the depths of our real selves on a regular basis. If it is at all hard at any point along the way, rather than getting into a victim consciousness about that, I would invite you to look at it more from just like a detached, this is where detachment can really serve us, from a detached, more scientific observation kind of standpoint, and ask ourselves, why is it hard? And I think the truth is, the answer is, it's hard because we pressed snooze a lot. Like a lot happened and we said later. And then something else happened and we said later. And that is not a judgment on anybody as a bad person, because we have the skills that we have. We have the skills that we were taught when we got here. We have the capacity that we've built since we got here. And if we don't have the tools to cope with our own internal pain, our own internal emotional suffering, then it would make total logical sense that we would say, I'll deal with that later when I know how. Like, I can't deal with that right now, so I numb it out, or I distract myself, or all kinds of things that we can bury ourselves in to basically pretend to kind of stick our head in the sand a little bit and pretend that that's just not over there right now, because I can't deal with it. I don't have an option. I don't have a better option than to ignore it, and sometimes that's just true. And so then you get to a point on your path where you do have more skills. You do have more capacity because you built it up. You did that, every day, every week, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. Like, your capacity has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And the other thing that I want to say, as far as like turning inward, that's another muscle where it can get bigger and bigger and bigger a little bit every day. Nobody says that to start with meditation. Here, let me just lay out all of the restrictions that got taken off that let me get into meditation. Number one, you don't have to close your eyes. That's not required. So just don't close your eyes. If they show you horrific things on the back of your eyelids, don't close your eyes. Number two, it could be 10 seconds and still be effective. Maybe not as effective if you had the muscle capacity to sit there for 20 minutes. But when you're first starting out, even to just set an intention that I'm going to meditate for the next 2 breaths, and then to pay attention to those breaths, like, you just did something there. That was a step. And if that's all you did today, great. Tomorrow, see if you can do 3 breaths. Cool. Look at you go. Like, just build it up a little bit at a time. So these Mermaid Portal experience guided channeled messages, it's in that same vein of kind of guiding you through getting to come into this space with another person, so that you're not just floating in the nothingness, because again, it is very disorienting. That's kind of the whole point. So it can be helpful to have somebody else who has at least just a different perspective, and that's all I'm doing here, is kind of being my own different perspective, as far as I'm listening to what I'm saying, which is what I'm channeling. Like, I'm letting it come through without giving it any thought, just letting the words form themselves as they want to. And then as I listen, things occur to me, and that's very much like encouraging the next channeled message to come through. So yeah, I am simply providing kind of a rope through the nothingness, and you can kind of move yourself along in certain parts of the tunnel, the portal, and experience it and see what it feels like. And the disorientation is really sticking out to me, because I think there's definitely a lot in the culture that would have us believe that we need to have a plan. We need to have things really figured out. Like, even, I was listening to a really popular tarot reader the other day, and they made the comment that like it would be crazy, and they kind of laughed, like, it would be crazy to like leave your old job before you get your new job. Like, of course you wouldn't do that. Like, obviously you wouldn't do that. And like, that comment, and like that like, obviously you wouldn't do that, like, that is an exact contradiction to everything that I'm laying out here as far as the Mermaid Portal. I am saying that the only way you get to a new map, a new level of reality, the only way that your new job isn't just a replacement for the shitty old job that you're trying to leave behind, like, the only way to do that is to leave behind the old life and let yourself be in the nothingness. And in the nothingness, you will reform. And that process takes as long as it takes. It's scary. It's very, like, you literally don't know which way is up, I think, which is why I have not been recording, because I feel very unfocused. I feel very like, I don't even necessarily know what I'm doing over here, like, let alone trying to make videos for anybody else. And this morning that actually came together and was like, right, talk about it. Like, get in there and express like how disorienting it is, how scary it is, how like the image that I keep getting is like when you enter into the mermaid portal, like you are to leave behind your old life. The visual is like a rocket, like trying to launch itself into space, like where it's having to like literally tear apart the atmosphere, and the atmosphere just gets like denser and denser and denser to like try to hold the rocket back. Like that is what your old life is doing. Your old life is the atmosphere. And like to burst through the atmosphere into the nothingness takes a lot of strength, you know? Like if you're familiar with the butterfly caterpillar analogy, then you probably heard me say, or you know, that the butterfly, like if you see a butterfly like moving around in its cocoon, like it's very damaging to like open the cocoon for the butterfly. Like you need to leave the butterfly in there as long as it takes for the butterfly to struggle its way free. Because if the butterfly doesn't struggle its way free, then its wings won't be strong enough and it won't be able to fly. And then like basically it'll be back on the ground like the caterpillar was. So like that's what I'm saying with like if you try to rush the process, if you try to like be in your old life and like set up shop in your new life, it's like your new life is basically your old life, just with like a different coat of paint on it. So, you know, that's one way to do it. And like maybe there's small increments possible in that way. Nothing compared to what the mermaid portal offers, as far as if you would be willing to leave behind your old ways and be like, you know what, I'd rather be alone than in something like this. I'd rather be unemployed. I understand that's a luxury. I'd rather be unemployed than working at this job. I would rather have nothing than this thing, because it's not right for me, because it's not working. Like we said, like you don't have to leave behind the things that are an authentic match to your soul. And I think if we're being honest with ourselves, we know the difference. We know the things that are a match to our heart and soul, that light us up, that make us more, that call us and pull us into more of our power, that celebrate the authentic self that we really are. We know who those people are in our lives, and we know the ones that we're clinging to for security. You know, like I think everyone probably has a pretty good sense of their own list of people on this side and people on this side. And I only bring it up, like everything else in the mermaid portal, because I am personally living through this. I see that there are people in my world that they are there because I love them, because I enjoy getting to see them. I look forward to getting to see them. I like all of these things. Like I feel better after I see them. I feel bigger. I feel more. I feel cherished after I see them. And then there are the people where I more walk on eggshells because I want to keep the peace, because I want to maintain the relationship. And that is a very different thing. You know, like at that point, it's really not even them that I care about. When I'm trying to maintain a relationship, when I'm like actively working at a relationship, rather than just organically, like we're magnetized to each other. We spend time together because we love each other, you know, like we don't need anything else to like force us together. Like it's just there because we both want to be there. And then there's the other ones where we're strategically investing and structuring and building relationships. We're being very deliberate about what it is that our relationship is. And again, I'm only able to describe this because I'm over here doing it. So, you know, just all know that like I'm never judging anybody. I'm only revealing my trade secrets. I'm only telling you like an inside glimpse at like what even is going on in my crazy brain over here. But I personally think that there is a high degree of manipulation in everything that's happening on this side, where we are not necessarily trying to love the person and make them more. We are maintaining the relationship because we personally have a need that the relationship is fulfilling, and we do not want to lose the relationship for fear that our needs would go unmet. And that is just like, again, that is in the old world of inauthenticity. That is hustling for your security. That's you making compromises and sacrifices and potentially maneuvering around someone instead of being your authentic self. And if the relationship doesn't continue because your authentic self and their authentic self aren't a good match, I mean, that's life. That's just nature. That's like, do the elements react nicely together or do they not? And like, you know, instantaneously if they do or don't. And to force a relationship to invest in building a specific relationship, it seems inauthentic. And I'm realizing that there are multiple people where my authenticity isn't allowed by me because I do not want to rock the boat of this relationship, because this relationship is of strategic advantage to me. So you better believe that, like, it's really only because of the self-love and self-compassion and self-protection that, like, I can even go here, because I really don't care for that look. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that that's cool. Like, when I'm really in my higher self and I'm vibing in like my authenticity, I don't like that kind of behavior from myself. I don't like that. I would kind of like, that's really harsh and degrading. Can we put it another way? Yeah, give me another way. Give me another version. I'm selling myself. I'm paying with my authenticity, and what I'm receiving is external harmony in those situations, right? External security, external harmony, harmony with another person, that's external harmony, harmony with yourself, that's internal harmony. And so in authenticity on the new world side, that is where internal harmony is the new currency, inner peace and contentment, and knowing for a fact, without a shadow of a doubt, that you are living the life that you were born to live. That is the currency in the new world. That level of confidence, that level of alignment, that level of knowing that supersedes faith. You know that I'm living my exact mission in life. And I pop into that world sometimes, and I'm figuring out how to stay longer and longer. I'm figuring out how to recognize faster when I'm in my old world, when I'm playing out my old patterns, when I'm relating for security instead of for pleasure. I mean, recognizing our patterns and recognizing how did we get ourselves into the situation that is going on in the old world? You know, what was it that we did to get us in the middle of this? Because we made choices and they added up into that reality. And now we can see the reality clearly enough, and we may recognize that we don't really like this reality. We would like a different reality. And what do you do then? At that point, you go in the mermaid portal. If you know that this is not the reality you want, leave it behind. Leave it behind. Take the biggest leap of faith that you can manage, right? Like, you're the one that has to live with it. You're the one that has to, like, let the leap of faith endure, meaning like waiting in faith. Like, you got to do that part. So like, only take the leap that you can really live with. But that is the mermaid portal. That is the leaving behind, not settling for what you know isn't right, letting the space be opened up in your life such that you can receive what is right. And that is where I would say, like, that urge to be strategic can really work for you well, as far as you get to be strategic with what you choose to let go of. Like, everything in our life takes energy from us and gives us energy. And now that doesn't say anything about what kind of energy is it taking from us and what kind of energy is it giving back to us. You know, it could be giving, we could be giving it love, we could be sending out love, and we could be getting back resistance, opposition, suppression, all kinds of things as far as like, you're trading, and what trade are you making? So what are you putting out there? What are you getting back? And so you picture like you're in the middle as far as like a power plant. Like every day you wake up and you have energy in your being, and every night you go to sleep, you power down and you recharge, and the next morning you wake up and you have energy in your being. Every day you're also engaging in all of the things that are in your life right now. And the question is, which of them are satisfying transactions? And I drew this out for myself as far as like on a blank journal page. I drew a box with me in the middle, and then what are the things that really I send my energy into these things? What are those things? And what do each of these things give me back in terms of I send out the energy, I get some energy back. What is the reciprocity? What is the give and take of this relationship? Is it balanced? And I did that on, everything that's in my life. And I saw that, there are things where I feel like, if anything, I wish I could give even more, because I feel like the energy that I get back from some of these things is just like heart overflowing. And I actually have to look for even more outlets outside of where I'm getting the energy from. Like in some of my best friendships, like I get so much energy from them that I have to sometimes like make a podcast episode or make a video just to continue sharing how much energy this friendship gives me. I can't even give it all back inside that relationship. So like that is awesome. It's like those relationships, like they put extra energy into my grid. That is huge. Like I get to take the energy from that relationship because they're like, no, you gave me a lot. Thank you so much. And then they give me all this. And now I'm sitting here with extra energy, and like, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do with it? What are you going to spend it on? And I make a lot of content off of those overflows of my best friendships. And then I looked on some other parts of the paper where I feel like I give a lot, and there's just the teeniest little trickle of energy coming back to me. So either, they are reciprocating. They're sending back appreciation, but I feel like the pipeline of what's going out and the pipeline of what's coming back in, not the same size. And I'm like, that right there, that's a candidate for like, need to leave that behind, need to leave that on this side of the Mermaid portal, okay? And open that space back up so that we can get to something new, because I see that there are places in my life where there is this awesome energetic exchange where it's creating overflow on both ends. So I know it's possible, and I am not willing to settle for I send out a lot and you give me just a little. No, new sheriff in town, not gonna have that anymore. The other one was I send out energy, and what I get back is like poor treatment, again, like suppression, oppression, resistance, opposition, like just generally not having my back, like not co-creating a feeling of security that I get to participate in. I give all this energy, and what I get back in return is insecure energy flowing back towards me for being part of this group. Like I feel unsafe here. And so at that point, that one was like, this is urgent. This is urgent, because this is allowing like a steady stream of insecure energy to come into my grid. Not okay. Not okay, because just like over here with the awesome friendship where I have extra, and now I get to, what am I going to spend it on? What am I going to do with this great upbeat energy? That's wonderful. When the extra, the surplus that I get back is fearful, resistant, heavy, self-doubting, like that is also giving me back something that I have to ask myself, okay, so now what am I going to do with this? Like how do I transmute this energy? Like, what am I going to do to break this up and like get myself back to where I feel like I am standing in my power? Because all I get off this group is powerlessness. And so looking at all of the different things that we engage in and what are you choosing to put your energy into, right? Because nobody can take our energy. We choose. Every single time we send it out, that is our choice. And what are they giving back to us is not our choice. We are not responsible for what they choose to give back to us. We are responsible on how long we choose to receive it from them. Okay? Because we can't control what anybody gives us. The friendships where I feel like I'm getting this extra energy back from them, I didn't tell them to do that, and they don't feel like they're doing that. They feel like it's the same, only on their end, like they feel like they wish they could give me more because I give them so much. So like, again, it's creating excess on both sides. So I know that that's possible. So when I saw that on my paper, my grid of like, where is all of my energy going and what am I getting in return from all of that energetic output? When I saw that happening, where I am putting in my energy, my good energy, and what I am getting back is something that feels like I'm settling. It feels like, why am I putting up with this? And then the question is like, right, why are you putting up with this? And sometimes it's for practical reasons. Sometimes there are practical concerns that are going to need to be untangled, like because they're tangled, they got enmeshed, we have a joint checking account, we own a house together, we have kids, we have a business, we have like whatever it is, like there's details. And then it just this is one of the reasons why I do what I do, because I find it to be so sad when people will hold themselves hostage in their old world because of one of those. Because like, well, I made a commitment, I made a promise, and it's like anything that you promised outside of yourself is an illusion. Okay? Like anything that got promised in the 3D. Anything that you promise inside of yourself, anything that you make a commitment to you, that is something that, right, like you're going to create some karma one way or the other if you step off of what you know to be true and correct and right for you. Going against that will tear up your soul. But a lot of people believe that breaking commitments to other people is the part that gets you the bad karma, and I don't think that's true. I really, really, truly don't. And I plop it here in the middle of this mermaid portal experience for your contemplation on like, no, I think breaking promises inside yourself is where bad karma, where debts come from. Like when you betray yourself, now we're getting into a territory where, yeah, like that's not cool. But with other people, it's only ever a negotiation. And the negotiation's never over. Okay? And so when it comes to somebody else, if this current status quo is not working for you, then it's time to renegotiate. And if terms cannot be reached, then the agreement is over. Like that is personally how I see it. As far as like any relationship that is big enough to hold your authentic self will let you renegotiate it a million different times. Okay? What do you want, honey? We'll give you exactly what you want because we love you. We love you and we want to be in relationship with you. So you have different parameters that you want for this relationship. Okay, cool. No big deal. Go for it. Fly free. Have whatever you want. And that is the level of freedom that waits for us in the new world of living in our authenticity and meeting new relationships from day one, from a place of being so empowered in our authenticity where we are able to stand fully in our power and attract others who are doing the same, where all they want is their freedom and all you want is your freedom. And as much as it's fun to be with each other, great. No one is clinging to anybody for their lifeline, for their security. That is what exists in the old world. And until you can leave that behind, the authentic heart-to-heart relationship is over here on the other side of the mermaid portal, waiting for you to swim across. So this is a time of paradigms shifting. That is a whole nother concept that I really wanted to tack in here, where I feel like there is an old work paradigm, an old relationship paradigm that basically add up into the old life paradigm that is what is crumbling at this time. And I'm going to say, like, at this time for me, I'm watching it crumble in my world. And whenever you are finding this message, especially those of you that are still listening at this point, like, in your timing, in your world, it is now time for the old work, the old relationship, adding up into the old life paradigm. It is time to shift. It's time to leave that sucker behind. And in the old relationship paradigm, we relate for security. In the old work paradigm, we trade our time for security. Like, basically, the old life paradigm is trying to get to security. And the thing about it is that is just so interesting is, like, the 3D is inherently insecure. So every single time you get a foothold in security, as far as like feeling secure in yourself, that is when the 3D will like yank it out from under you, as far as like, right, like the 3D is not a source of security. So the old work paradigm, like your job, is not a source of security. Like, we see layoffs all the time. We see companies going bankrupt all the time. Like, your job is not a source of security. And if you're holding on to it as an illusion of security, this is, around the time when it's time for the paradigms to shift. Either you resign from your job or it's taken away from you. And that is part of kind of leaving the old work paradigm on that side and swimming through the mermaid portal to get to the new work paradigm, the new relationship paradigm, the new life paradigm. So the old relationship paradigm, that is also very similarly where, we're relating for security. We are having a relationship with what someone can give us instead of with the person themselves. So, I mean, when you hear it like that, it's like, right, we're using each other. In the old relationship paradigm, in the old work paradigm, we're using each other to try to maintain an illusion of security, when security in the 3D isn't even possible. Like, that's part of moving to the new life paradigm, is realizing where true security actually comes from. And it is from living as your authentic self. It is from honoring your soul, honoring your extension of source energy, the God self that you are. Being connected to that and living from the center of that, that is true security. That is truly something that you can take with you when you go. You know how they say about 3D money and riches and relationships and fancy things and whatever, like, you can't take it with you when you go. Well, in the new life paradigm, the riches that you're building as far as like discovering your authentic self and living as your God self in the physical, that's stuff you take with you when you go. That every time you honor your authenticity, you are building up positive karma. You are standing closer and closer and more upon the exact soul mission that your life was for, that your soul came here to live. Like, every time you line up with that, every time, every morning you come out of the cocoon, you swim into the nothingness that is the place in your soul where we connect back to the all, and you download another little piece of who you truly are. Sweet soul, if you are doing that work, I see you. I see you doing that work. I cheer for you. I give you a standing ovation. I know that there are so many of us on this planet right now who are like I'm doing right now. We're sitting in our bedroom, we're drinking coffee, and we're journaling, and we're knocking it out in our healing journey. And maybe we're not sharing that with the world, maybe we are, but whether we are or aren't, every single step that you take, that I take in our healing journeys is sending healing ripple effects through the collective soul that are felt by the entire collective, whether you say a word about it or not. So I feel you. I feel what you're sending out, what you're pushing out into the collective through simply wanting to be more there for yourself, simply wanting to heal more of your own pain on the inside. That is truly like all that's required at this point. That is truly all that's required. Once you get to the mermaid portal itself, like you've left behind the old work paradigm, the old relationship paradigm, you've left behind the old life paradigm, whatever that was for you. Once you get to the in-between, the work here is very simple. It's like deceptively simple. And again, this is where most people kind of miss the exit that is the mermaid portal, because they try to like leave behind the one thing on Friday and Monday morning go to work on the new thing. And like, that's just not how it works. Like, you leave behind the old thing and you come into a deep rest cycle. You come into a deep integration cycle where the nutrients that were your time spent in the old world, every minute that you spent in the old world was exactly how it was supposed to be. And every bit of those experiences have fruit for you to harvest out of it. And in the mermaid portal, that's what we're doing. We're giving thanks for what it was that we went through in the old world. We're giving thanks for our courage to recognize that this is not where I belong anymore. And giving thanks for the courage that it took to face the atmosphere that is the old world and break through that atmosphere to get into the nothingness. The fact that we are even in the in-between means we have already done the hard part. We already broke through the atmosphere. So once you are waiting in the mermaid portal, once you're swimming in the nothingness, rest. Take care of you. Take a bath, take a walk, cuddle your kitten, draw some tarot cards, write in your journal, go for a walk in nature, ground into the earth, do something that you haven't done since you were a kid, buy a hula hoop, like go plant some plants in your garden, like do things that aren't for anyone else besides you, right? Like I think the main way that I would paint that picture of like what is the work of the mermaid portal, we are recollecting, we are reclaiming all of our power, we are gathering our full power back into our beingness. And we do that by harvesting the fruit out of those old world experiences. You know, why were you there? What happened? What led you into that situation, and how did you get yourself out? And how are you going to keep from going right back into the same situation with new people? Because we do that a lot, you know, like that's very common. And it's very, you know, again, nothing to beat ourselves up about, because if that happened, then that meant that there was even more fruit, that like you needed to continue that pattern, because this first part of it didn't give you all the fruit that you really needed, all the nourishment that you really needed. So you continued the pattern on to the second situation, which had more for you, more nourishment for you, that you needed all of that. So never, you know, as much as we possibly can, please don't beat ourselves up for any time that we spent in those old paradigms, because truly every bit of what we will build in the new paradigm is harvested, is, you know, bricks made from the waste of the old paradigms. So you take everything that the old world was and you break it down into the different nutrients of what it was, and you absorb the ones that are healing for your soul, and you digest the ones that are pieces of yourself that you had not yet claimed, and you allow those to integrate. You look for the waste, you know, like what is true excrement. This was not needed. This was unnecessary. Unnecessarily harsh, unnecessarily aggressive, unnecessarily possessive, unnecessary unnecessary. What is it? Because that is the brick for the new world. Is like, right. So now in your new paradigm, you will not accept that. There is a new sheriff in town and we don't do that anymore. Okay? We don't play like that in these parts. And so your boundaries, essentially, in the new paradigm is made from the excrement, the waste of what went on in your old world. So we reclaim our power. We pull every ounce of ourselves back into ourselves. And for that, I have something that I wanted to share with you as well. That is a ritual called cord cutting. And a lot of you are probably already familiar, but I am going to go through my understanding of it because it is one of the easiest, most productive tools that I have ever found as far as being in the mermaid portal and doing your work, reclaiming your power. How do you do that, right? Like, how do you reclaim power? And cord cutting is one of the ways where when there is an uncomfortable dynamic between you and someone else, when you feel that you cannot be in your full power with this other person, it is worth thinking about cord cutting in that relationship, in that dynamic. And real quick, I'll describe like the very basic ritual that you would do as far as closing your eyes, and in your mind's eye, you picture the person standing in front of you. And once you have them standing in front of you, you feel, where is the cord? Where is the connection point between my soul and their soul, my being and their being? Where are we connected? And there may be many cords. Most likely there are. From what I am experiencing at this point, basically every time you interact with someone, at least one new cord is added. So if you've interacted with someone 1,000 times, there's 1,000 cords. And I say that not to overwhelm you, only to paint a picture of like how easy it is for our energy to become linked up with a lot of things that are not us. And then we become dissipated into a lot of things that are not us. So cutting the cord, basically the gist of what you're doing is you are sending all of their power back to them, and you are taking all of your power back into yourself. And so every time you cut a cord, they receive back their power, you receive back your power. And so the sensation, the feeling it's sensation is a rush for me as far as like, I believe that this is happening. That's a pretty key ingredient as far as believing that something like that is possible. But as you believe that, it is, the cord itself is only made of my power. And so, of course, it's in my power to cut it and take my power back. And so every time I do that, I get a stirring in the base of my stomach, and it rushes up, kind of like that first drop on a roller coaster, so to speak. A reclaiming, a rushing of my power coming back into me. And a couple other things that I'll say is like, really even just cutting one cord at a time, even though there may be multiple, most likely the one that reveals itself to you is like the one that's ready to be cut right now. So for example, there's someone that I've been working with energetically, meaning like only in my meditations am I like working through the cords between us. I have not talked to this person at all about any of this. But every time I feel discomfort around this person, I am able to go into my meditation and look for a cord. And the cord itself will typically bring up a painful memory, a painful experience where, for example, there have been cords that are like, feel like they were like a bullet, like shot through my head. There were cords that feel like they go straight into my heart. There are cords that go into my back. There are cords that go straight into my gut. There are cords that try to cut me off at the middle to where it's like trying to block me from my power. Like there are cords everywhere of like people's influences that are still attached to me. And so I have been cutting a lot of cords lately, and as I work with this individual, it's very interesting because when I started, I was doing it because I wanted to be able to discuss with them how to heal our relationship in the 3D. And at this point, I have ended that relationship in the 3D because once the cords were all gone and the energetic attachment wasn't there anymore, I reclaimed my power from a few of the massive cords. That's another thing. They can be any size. Like you might think that they're all going to be like a cord, like, about like that maybe. That's kind of what I was thinking. The first one I found with this person was the size of a basketball. It was like that big around, and it connected the two of us, and it pulsated, and it had like a coating around the outside that was another like 6 or 8 inches of like a haze of pain. Kind of like when you get a splinter and it's like infected and now it's like swollen and red and like tender to the touch. It was like that cord, like I couldn't even touch it the first time I found it. I had to come out of my meditation. I cried a bunch for a couple of days. And about 3 days later, I returned to that cord and I claimed my power out of it such that it shrank down to like a piece of spaghetti, and then I cut it and it was easy peasy at that point. But like I claimed my power out of it, meaning as I sat there and I felt into like this basketball sized cord and how much of my power was in that cord to make it basketball sized. How much of his power was in that cord to make it basketball sized. And I started like drawing the power out by recognizing where had I given it in the first place. I had trusted his lead. So reclaiming that power means claiming my own responsibility to be the leader of myself. I will be my leader. And that the cord got smaller. Trusting him. I had given power to the cord as far as trusting him to tell me like what's a good idea, what's a bad idea. I had given him that role of being my validation. So I claim my responsibility for validating myself. Inner validation. I claim responsibility for being my own inner validation, and the cord got smaller. And I did that several times until I had claimed back responsibility for everything that I had empowered him to be. I had put him on the throne of my life, and I took him off and I had to sit myself there. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. And after that, a few days later, there was more discomfort. I go into meditation looking for another cord. There was another experience that was really painful, and I cut that cord, same thing, another few days later. And at this point, like with those cords cut, it's not necessary that the person fall out of your life. With the energetic ties broken, that's not guaranteed that that's going to happen. It's like, is that person lined up with your authentic self or not? I mean, it has really nothing to do with the energetic cords. The energetic cords being cut means you get to move forward. And whether or not they come with you is a matter of, are they aligned with your inauthentic self or are they aligned with your authentic self? And in this case, I don't know for sure yet because the future hasn't really played itself out too far, but I am pretty sure that this person will not be coming with me into my new life, and that's okay. That's okay because the necessary grief to let it go was done during the cord cuttings, because as the rush of power comes back, so can there be the wave of fear and pain and sadness and loss. There's a lot of grief in cord cutting as far as letting go is not easy. Letting go is something that, you have to really want that. And before you can want that, you have to grieve it before it's possible to truly let something go. So like the first time I found the basketball-sized cord, I had to grieve that cord for like 2-3 days before I could go back and cut it. So give yourself just a mountain of gentleness with anything of this nature that you undertake, as far as trying to separate yourself, even just energetically, from your old paradigms, the things in your life that are not working for you, the things in your life that are not aligned with your authentic self. That doesn't mean that they're bad. It doesn't mean that they're wrong. It just means that they're not aligned with you. And cutting cords can be a great way to set yourself free and give the connection space to discover if it's going to evolve along with you or not. Dear friends, it has been my pleasure to swim through the mermaid portal with you in this way. If you have liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. I would love to hear from you down below in the comments. I always love, especially getting timestamps of like, what were the pieces that just really moved you or really stood out to you? And even if you didn't leave any this time, think about that for next time, as far as like, it also puts it there for anybody else in the comments to like live that moment that you thought was so powerful. Thank you again for joining me. It is legitimately my pleasure to get to be here. It is truly my outlet. It is truly my self-care to get to be here and channel messages in this way. It is one of the most peaceful places in my world. So I'm really grateful that I let my expectations down a little bit, as far as like, yeah, I don't feel like this was super focused or like anything like that, but I let myself do it anyway. And you know what? Like, it was perfect for me right now, and maybe it was perfect for you right now. I won't know unless you tell me, or not. Either way, you do you. That's kind of the whole point of this channel, is your authentic life, your full self-expression is worth having in this world. You came here for a reason, and it is my pleasure to get to connect with you in this way. Until next time, I do hope that you will take such good care of your beautiful self, and so will I.